Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Dr. Toni. I am a mom. I am also a practicing psychotherapist as of the time of this live stream in the state of Pennsylvania. And I am a mentor, a success and satisfaction mentor. I get to lead, guide, support, teach, inspire fellow leaders and ambitious folks and achievers and entrepreneurs. And I'm really excited to be here with you all today. So, the the topic of discussion today is around you're not crazy. Quite the title, right? Like, how many of us have felt that, like, as we're going through these conversations in our head, in our mind, and all this mental clutter and all these conflicting thoughts and feelings, when we're just like, am I crazy? Am I crazy? Or maybe you've been like in a conversation, an argument with someone maybe that you care about, or maybe even a colleague, and you feel like you're batting your head against the wall, and you go through all of these kind of notions in your head, all of these different ideas or perspectives, and you're just like, am I the crazy one? Am I crazy here? Like, what is going on? I don't I feel like I've said it in all these different ways, or I feel like I've tried all these different ways, or I feel like I've considered all these different things. Like, am I crazy? Or maybe you're trying to make a decision about something because you're not sure. You're not sure about, do I want to do this, or do I want to do this, or do I want to go in this direction, or like, oh, I feel wishy-washy. Like, and what in the world? How come I don't know what decision to make or what direction to go in, or how come I'm not just satisfied with where I'm at because I have everything I think I should need, and compared to other people, like everything, like, what, am I crazy? Like, I feel crazy. There's no way anyone else could understand. I i must i must be crazy. And in this kind of internal dialogue and this kind of experience that many, if not all of us, have had, crazy has like this negative connotation to it, right? It's like there's something wrong or defective or deficient or not enough about me in some way, or there's something that's not right. Like, there's something off, and it must be me because I don't know what else to do or to try or to say or anything. Like, I feel crazy. I feel crazy. And oftentimes it is my most compassionate, most caring, most heart-driven folks that tend to feel that way because they want to consider so many other perspectives. They don't want to come across as selfish. They don't want to come across as though they don't care. And so they try to consider or try to understand all of these different things, but it leaves them feeling like no matter how much I try to understand, no matter how much I try to consider, maybe no matter how much I try to overextend, no matter how much I try, or do, I feel crazy. And that can show up as really frustrating in relationships that are like really deep and personal to us. It can show up as frustrating in the professional realm. But the one that I want to talk about the most here today is when it's just happening within ourselves. And it's like we want to maybe hit a certain goal or feel a certain way or do a certain thing or make a certain decision just within ourselves for ourselves. And we feel like we're going in a mental circle. Like, we feel like stuck in our heads. And what I could give you an example of myself, just within myself. I could give tons of examples with myself and with others I've worked with that we see happen, like in relationships, for example, where maybe you're in a marriage where there's miscommunication and you feel like I've tried everything, I've done everything. Like, I don't know, like, am I crazy? Am I missing something? Or maybe you've done that in your business. You're like, I've tried everything, I've done everything I should do or am told to do, or I'm told works, and it's not working. Like, am I crazy? Like, am I just not cut out for this? Like, there's so many examples we could go with around that as well. But within ourselves, it's like that's one of the hardest things is when we're fighting within ourselves about something, like, should I stay or should I go in this marriage, in this business, in this field of work, in this thing that I've been doing that I've invested a lot of myself, my time, my resources, my money in? What should I do? What should I do? Part of me wants to say yes. Part of me feels pissed off that I'm even in this position. Part of me is sad. Part of me is angry. How can I feel all these different things? And so when we are battling within ourselves, like I have, for example, before I finally made the decision to fully step out of like W-2 work and fully step into 100% entrepreneurial world, which was never a goal or plan or anything that I had for myself. I definitely had this background fear and went back and forth with myself. Like, am I being selfish? Is this wrong? What if I mess up? But this could work, or like this could work, or I could make this work, or this could happen, or this could take me there. But what if I say no to this? What if I say no to stepping out fully into this entrepreneurial world and I miss my chance? Or what if I say yes and I screw it up, or it just doesn't go the way that I think that it should, or it takes a long time, or it winds up messing things up? Like, this is all my own internal dialogue. And so with all those different thoughts came a bunch of different feelings. So there was fear, there was anxiety, there was excitement, there was this sense of like dreaminess, like just dreaming of, oh, like there's so much opportunity there. There's so much feeling, all these different kinds of feelings that were happening within myself. So much so that as I was sorting through all of it, if I tried to pay attention to all of it at once, I was like, am I crazy? Am I crazy about this? Am I crazy about this? And so maybe you can relate, or this resonates for you in some way in where you're at in your life, where you're like, am I crazy? I feel crazy. Like internally, I've got all these different things going on. Like I feel crazy. And if you are in that experience or have had that experience once, twice, a million times over, first of all, know that you're not the only one that has experienced that. This is a common experience. And it is one that's able to be navigated with much less difficulty than we tend to navigate, than we tend to be used to navigating it. It's one that can be navigated with much less stress than we tend to think we have to navigate it with. And I want to share with you. So there are about like four, I would say probably like my top four things or concepts that I have not just embraced, but really integrated within my life that have helped me move through experiences like, am I the crazy one in my life? And one of them is one that I want to share with you today. And this one concept came up the strongest for me, like pulled me in as wanting to explore it and integrate it more in my life when I was becoming a brain spotting therapist. And if you haven't heard of brain spotting, it's something I'm certified in. It is something therapists and sometimes even coaches use, performance coaches and things like that, success coaches like myself use in order to help our clients get out of their prefrontal cortex and be able to really resolve and heal and move through information that is more in the limbic area of the brain, as well as incorporating, and by limbic area, I mean the emotional parts of the brain, as well as incorporating the body, the somatic experience of it all. And so it's a really powerful way to help do deeper work, whether it is to heal or to improve performance in some way. So I use it in both. I use it both in therapy, and I use it in the mentorship that I do with clients when appropriate. And brain spotting pulled me into a deeper understanding and desire to want to explore what I call parts work, and what many others who are familiar with parts work, they also call parts work. Now, I'm not talking about specifically internal family systems. Internal family systems was created by Dr. Schwartz, and it includes parts work. It does have parts work at its core, but it is a theoretical model that has a whole ton of like principles and there's I don't practice any cookie cutter approach, so I'm not speaking specifically to internal family systems. If you're interested in that, I totally recommend you to go ahead and check that out. There's a whole world there of amazing information that you can dive into. That is not what I'm going to dive into today. And then brain spotting, if you're not familiar with it, you can go to brainspotting.com and find a ton of information there around brain spotting. But I'm also not going to dive deep into brain spotting today because that's not the purpose of this conversation. But as I explored brain spotting, went deeper and deeper into that, the integration of the mind, the body, and then for me as well, the soul, I started to get really interested in parts work in a way different than I ever had before. And I was familiar with it before as a therapist, but it was in a new way. And parts work is a concept that helps us understand that when we have all of these internal conflicts within ourselves that make us feel like we are crazy, it helps us understand that we're actually not crazy. We are just a system that has a bunch of different parts that when they are all healed, functioning at their best, then our whole system is able to work well together. When our parts are not all healthy, healed, and functioning together at their best, then obviously the whole system is not able to function as optimally as it could. And that makes sense, right? Just look at our physical body. So I am one body person, right? Like I have a whole physical body. However, my whole physical body is made up of parts. This whole body it's got fingers, it's got hands, 2 of them. It's got arms, it's got wrists, it's got legs, it's got kneecaps, it's got my nose, it's got, right? And all of these different parts of the whole have unique and intentional functioning, right? They have functions that help my body as a whole to function optimally. If something is off, if for example I woke up, my allergies were activated this morning, so I couldn't smell as well. So if my smell is off, my nose and my sinuses are not functioning as well, it actually affects how the whole top of my body feels and actually makes the rest of my body feel a little bit more tired. But if I'm trying to address the tiredness in my body without being aware, like, no, actually, this is like allergies that are originating here in my nose and sinus area. If I tend to this is going to function better. And then the rest of my body is also going to function better. If instead I'm just trying to focus on the tiredness of my body and address that, but I'm not addressing the part that really needs the most support, intentional targeted support, then I'm missing something. And I'm definitely not being as effective as I could be. Right? So it's the same thing with our internal parts. Inside of us, yes, we are one human being, but we have parts within us that help make up the whole of who we are. And all these different parts have different functions. There are protective parts. There are parts that are more like connected to our sense of sadness, for example, or a sense of vulnerability, for example. Now, the parts that I have, the parts that you have, they're all unique into each of us, although we could categorize them. And these parts, as we go through life, they are figuring things out. They're figuring out how to function the best they can. That's what they're trying to figure out, right? How they can function the best they can in order to support the larger whole, right? Our systems, our full self, our body. But they get stuck sometimes. They get stuck, or they get hurt, or they get scared, or they just don't know what to do because they don't have the guidance that they need. And so maybe they feel alone. And so we have all these internal parts, and they get pulled up with different experiences that we have in our lives. So for example, if I am trying to make a decision about what next career step to make or what next thing to do in my business. And I feel scared. That scared, fearful part of me is not all of me. It is a part of me that got activated because of the way that I'm looking at the situation, the way I'm experiencing the situation at hand. Well, I have to make this really big decision that seems life altering to me, and I don't want to mess it up. The part of me that fears not wanting to mess it up is a part of me. That part of me is functioning either in a way that helps me and serves me and is healthy, or a way that's not so healthy. But it only would function in a way that's not so healthy if at some point it functioning that way was helping me. Let me give you an example, because this is where it can get a little bit confusing. So protective parts, which is a part that just wants to keep us safe, just wants to keep us protective, they get created and start learning their functioning based off of experiences that we have in this world. And so growing up, a common experience for me was that I got blamed for a lot of things, or at least that was my perception. I got blamed for a lot of things. It was my responsibility to take care of my siblings and the family. This is a hypothetical, but one that is common. And so I really need to take on a lot of responsibility, which means everything is on me all of the time. And therefore, if something is wrong, it is my fault. Then there is a part that wants to protect you from messing up because it feels really unsafe. It feels like a failure, and therefore an opportunity to be rejected and viewed in a really negative or just unwanted way from people around us. And so there's a part of you that actually wants to protect you by telling you to be perfect or to always be the responsible one. And when that part gets activated, well, that part, if we're not aware that that's what's going on, can kind of take the steering wheel and start driving our decisions, even though that part was never meant to be the core leader. It starts leading. And so decisions start getting made from the perspective of only that part, even though that part is not supposed to be the leader of your whole system. It's supposed to be a part that gets guidance from what I call your core connected self. Okay, so this is yourself that is really like the leader of who you are. Internal Family Systems calls it the self, capital S. Different people call it different things. I call it, because of the model that I use, that I've created, the core connected self. So we all have this leader within us who is intended to lead the whole system. So if you think of our physical body, some people would say that's the brain, some people would say that's the heart. So the leader of our physical body would maybe be the brain or the heart, maybe both. So those are the leaders of our whole physical body. And they are intended to help tell the other parts of the body what to do and how to function. But if another part of the body were to try to take over the role that the brain and heart are doing and start to lead, that would not work out well, right? It's not the role that it's intended to be in. And so it's the same thing with our internal parts. If our internal parts, some are young, vulnerable parts, some are really angry parts, some are all of these different parts that we want. If they're trying to take the steering wheel and be the leader where they're not supposed to be, and they're leading and we don't realize it, right? Because we just feel the anger, we just feel the sadness, or we just feel the fear, and it kind of takes over, takes a driving seat, it takes a steering wheel. Now, a part of us is dictating, is making decisions for our whole being, even though that part of us is not supposed to be in that leadership role. And you see how that can kind of throw things out of whack, right? But the reason the idea of parts work became so fundamental for me in my life and my healing, as well as the way that I serve others, is because it allows us to realize that we can have thoughts and feelings, and those thoughts and feelings not define or dictate who we are, while also still being very valid thoughts and feelings that deserve and require our acknowledgement, our awareness, our nurturance. And when we look at it in that way, whenever we have thoughts and feelings, be they strongly positive, strongly negative, or anything in between, we have an opportunity now to be aware of the relationship that we have with ourselves. So if you are, every time you make a mistake, you beat yourself up, you've got parts inside of you that are telling you, oh, well, you're a failure. Oh, you're not good at anything. Oh, you have to do better. All these different parts that are fighting within you, causing all this mental chaos. Well, these parts aren't they don't define you. They don't dictate who you are, which means now we can step back. We can look at these parts for what they are, just parts of me that are getting activated because the experience that I'm having, the situation that I'm in. And now I can see what each of these parts might need, what each of these parts might fear, what each of these parts might be trying to do in the role that they might be trying to fill. And I can almost separate and observe these parts as being in need of something from me as the leader. Now, for some of you, this is way too far out there to even begin to try to contemplate. It's way too confusing or too abstract because of where you're at in your journey right now. That is totally fine, because I was one of those people at one point in time before, and I have serviced people that have been in that place before. So that's okay if that's where you're at. And you might be someplace else where you're like, oh my gosh, this makes total sense. This is exactly the piece that I needed, that I have been missing. Or you may be someone who already has experience with parts work. You're like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. Or, oh, okay, this, kind of thinking it in that way is helpful to me, or is helping me more deeply integrate. Or I don't agree. I don't actually agree. I don't see it that way. And that's fine too. Wherever you're at on the spectrum with this is totally fine. But what I will say is, regardless of where you're at on the spectrum, having an awareness that your thoughts and emotions, they do matter. And also, the variety of thoughts and emotions that you have don't need to be the ones that dictate and define all of who you are, and therefore make all of your decisions for you. At the very least, if we can take that in, then we get our power and freedom back to say, I can feel how I feel. I can have all of these thoughts that I have, and I can still at my core connect to that version of myself that I truly desire to be. And I can figure out how to navigate this situation in a better way, in a healthier way. I can figure out how to navigate this challenge or the stressor in a better way, in a healthier way. It's okay for me to have these thoughts and feelings. I don't have to make them bad or wrong. And I also don't have to fight against them, because that's just me fighting with me. And when we are fighting with ourselves, it creates internal chaos and conflict. It's like an internal war. And that only creates more distress, more misalignment, more lack of balance. And that doesn't help us to move forward in a way that feels more meaningfully successful and satisfying for ourselves, our lives, our loved lives, our lives of leadership, the lives that we lead in the greater world and the community, or with our children, which ultimately, in our own way, shape, or form, we all desire that, right? More meaningful success and deeper, greater satisfaction that actually matters to us. This parts work is one of the concepts that have helped me and helped me help others to really anchor in to a deeper knowing and understanding that at our core, who we desire to be, who we want to be, who we know that we are as meaningful connectors and meaningful contributors to this world, that we can be that. If we're just able to be aware that there are thoughts and feelings that we're going to have that maybe we don't want to have, but there's still parts of us. And as long as we are yelling at them or shutting them down or neglecting them and avoiding them or telling them that they're wrong or telling them that they're bad or giving them the driver's seat when they're not supposed to be there, then we are staying in this not aligned, off balance, not homeostasis kind of place. And so if we can just see them as parts of us that all have a functioning, all have a purpose and a reason for being there in some way, shape, or form, and part of our core role as their leaders of the whole being is to help them figure that out through a nurturing, supportive, and clear relationship with them, it changes the game. It changes the game. Now, this is deep work. This is not surface level work. It does not work unless you allow yourself to go deep with it. So if you are new to this or just experimenting with it, I do not recommend that you try to do a bunch of parts work on your own, just by yourself without any kind of support or guidance of a professional. I do recommend that you gain, at the very least, the guidance and support of someone outside of yourself that is trusted and safe and that has an awareness of this work. But definitely, I would highly recommend a professional that can support you with that. If you want to talk to me about whether or not I'm someone that can support you with that, I'm happy to discuss that. Have tons of courses and limited access to one-to-one work where we could discuss if that's a good support for you. So go ahead, take this, chew on it, see what comes up for you. Let it bring up whatever it needs to bring up, and let it be yours. See what way it best fits you, best suits you to kind of figure this out and try this out. If you got resistance to it, critique of it, cool, that's fine. That's where you're at. Been there, done that. I get it. And if you're totally open to it, cool, that's awesome. Explore that too. All right. Wherever you're at in your journey, it's okay that you're there. You don't have to stay there forever. You can always learn, grow, and evolve. We always have that opportunity. So thanks so much for being here with me today. Again, I'm Dr. Toni. If you haven't checked out The Reset, it was released this year in February of 2022, and it hit Amazon bestseller status in 3 different categories. I know it's going to change your life if you're someone that knows that you need a reset. So you can hop on over to Amazon. You can grab The Reset, A High Achiever's Guide to Freedom and Fulfillment by Dr. Toni Warner. Keep your eyes peeled because on April 22nd of 2022, the audio course will be coming out. And when that is officially out, I will drop the link below so you can check that out as well. Till next time, see ya.